Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today's going to be a little bit different. We are going to take a look at the 2021 roster. Not every single player on the roster would be here for eternity, but it's really a good chunk. I'll scroll this down for a second. We have a lot of guys that we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to be ranking them, putting them into 5 different categories. And I'm trying to do it by the perspective of Jets fans, not necessarily the league. I'll kind of talk through each one a little bit, but overrated, slightly overrated, properly rated, slightly underrated, or underrated is what we are choosing from. So let's get this thing rolling. First guy, we have Alex Lewis. I think he is properly rated by Jets fans. I think most understand that he is a borderline / fringe starter who's probably a little bit overpaid. So from the Jets, fan point of view, I think they hit that on the nose. I think some fans are actually slightly overrating Ashton Davis. I might fall into that category myself a little bit at times. He flashed a little bit, but I don't think showed nearly enough to the point where it's like, oh my God, yeah, you pencil him in as a starter and everything is fine. So I think he's going to go in the slightly overrated category. Elijah Vera Tucker, properly rated. Jets fans are extremely high on him, and for good reason. I might put Mekhi Becton into slightly underrated now, just because of how many people have written him off with the plantar fasciitis. I think people are being a little bit too harsh on the quote unquote injuries now that he's had. So I think he's actually now becoming slightly underrated by some Jets fans. Blake Cashman, overrated. Guy can't stay on the field, can't play. Has been that way since college. Probably the Jets should have never drafted Blake Cashman. He is overrated. Bless Austin is also overrated by Jets fans. I think they saw a little bit in year one and was like, oh my God, this kid, he can play. He could be a starter. I don't know. He can't cover. He could tackle. He can come up and, lay the hits, but he is not great in coverage. Oh my God, we got a bunch of overrated in a row. Braxton, everyone's favorite overrated. The Braxton Berrios stands online. That's probably going to be another video at some point during the offseason. He's fine. If he's your 6th receiver, which is what he's roughly the Jets' 6th or 7th receiver, okay, fine. But some fans think like this guy would be a great slot player to start. Like that, I just don't understand where they're possibly getting that logic from. So yeah, for that reason and that reason alone, he is going to fall under the overrated category. Next up, we have Bryce Hall. And I think Bryce Hall is properly rated. I think Jets fans, for the most part, are excited about him. I think you have some that maybe overrate him a little and some that underrate him a little. I think he's going to be a fine starting outside corner. And I think most have that mindset with him. I don't think this is someone who's going to be an incredible, like a Pro Bowler, but I think he could be a steady starter. Lawrence Cager's going into slightly overrated. I think most realize that he is a practice squad receiver, but there is a sometimes vocal portion of Jets Twitter that absolutely loves Lawrence Cager for some reason here. So for that reason, he is going into the slightly overrated category for me because I think some fans are just a little too high on him. Next up, we have Michael Carter, the running back. And I'm going to go slightly underrated. I think he can come in and be very good right away. I think some are expecting him to be like way down on the depth chart and that the next guy, Tevin Coleman, is going to be the bell cow, which I don't necessarily buy. Speaking of Tevin Coleman, he's up next. I'm going to go slightly overrated. Just because I think if you're expecting him to be the player that he was on the Falcons at this point in his career after all the injuries, I think you're probably expecting a little bit too much. So unfortunately, he's going to be in the slightly overrated category. Next up's Keelan Cole, and he's going into underrated. I think this is a really good wide receiver. If he's the Jets' fourth wide receiver, that's in great shape. I think he's could be a third wide receiver on most teams. He was, playing with the Jaguars, who have been struggling on offense for a long time now. So for him to put up the numbers that he did and just, contested catch guy, I think he's underrated. As well as the next guy on our list, Corey Davis. I think he's another one that some Jets fans are sleeping on. Is he going to be, an 1,100-yard receiver? No, but I absolutely expect him to be in that 950 to 1,000-yard range. There's a very good chance that he breaks 1,000 yards. I would be disappointed if he's under 900, I think, for the New York Jets this year. That's how excited I am about him. Next up, we have Jamison Crowder, and I'm going to put him into slightly overrated. He's a good player, a very good player. He's not elite. I think some people overrate him a little bit. I think others, you could maybe make the case underrate him. But I'm going to go slightly overrated. Still a very, very good player. He's not great, though, and I think some Jets fans act like he is great. So that's where the disconnect is. Jarrad Davis, I'm putting Jarrad Davis into slightly underrated. I think he is someone who, was a victim of the Patricia system. Patricia, I feel like, is the Adam Gase of defenses. So I think we could probably make a strong case that he is, due for, a bit of a breakout here. And I think some fans are sleeping on that a little bit. I'm really a fan of his game. Do I think he's going to be, a first round caliber player like that was drafted then? Maybe not. That's probably not fair to expect that. But I think you could, absolutely think that he could be solid. Next up, we have Elijah Moore, and I think he is properly rated. Jets fans are super, super excited about him, as they should be. He's going to be a very good player in this league. Then you have George Fant, who I think is slightly underrated. I think he's slept on by some fans. I thought he was solid at right tackle last year, but others maybe not so much agreeing with me there. Falu Fatukasi, I'm going to go, slightly underrated. I think he's a really good nose tackle that a lot of people are still sleeping on. He might not play as much because I think there's going to be more of a rotation this year, but he's a damn good player. Unfortunately, Dan Feeney is overrated by Jets fans. He is an absolute blast at the Islander games and stuff like that. Electric mullet, electric mustache, just not a good player. So I think he's a little overrated. Same with Ryan Griffin. I'm putting him into overrated. He put up some okay numbers in 2019, but after that injury, he pretty much came out himself and said he doesn't think he's going to be the same player, and he really hasn't been. So some blame Gase. I still think Griffin's overrated, though. Next up, Javelin Guidry. I'm going to put him in slightly overrated. I think some saw a small sample size last year and thought, oh, okay, like this is someone, he's going to be a slot guy now. I don't know about that. I think he's slightly overrated. Greg Van Roten, probably properly rated. I think some think he's similar to Alex Lewis, fringe starter. So I think that's fine. Chris Herndon, and I'm a victim of this as well. I do this way too often. He is overrated by Jets fans. I'm still optimistic about him. That's not me saying, I don't think that he could come back. But based on what he's shown so far in his career, he's absolutely been overrated by Jets fans. That could change. We could be proven right here. But Chris Herndon, there is no denying that he's been overrated. Next up, Bryce Huff, I think, is slightly underrated by Jets fans. Is he going to ever be a starter? I'm going to say probably not. But what I will say is in a rotational role, that could absolutely be a lot of fun watching him get after the quarterback. Jeff Smith, I think, is properly rated. I don't really know anyone who thinks of him more as like a wide receiver 6. So I think he's properly rated. John Franklin Myers, I think, is underrated. I think he is really, really damn good, and just some Jets fans don't see it yet. I think he is underrated by some. Ty Johnson, I'm going to put in properly rated. I think Jets fans are excited about him, and for good reason. So I think that they are justified in with their reaction to Ty Johnson in the small sample size last year. So I'm right there with you. I'm banging the drum too. LaMarcus Joyner, I'm going to go underrated. I think him being played out of position, Jets fans are down on him, but I think this was a really good signing. I like it a lot, actually. Tyler Croft, properly rated, blocking tight end 2 or 3. I think, completely fine right there. Lamar Jackson is going to be slightly underrated. I think some are looking at that one play against the Raiders way too much. He was put way above his head, and he got beat a couple of times pretty badly, but I still think there's something there, and I think some Jets fans are like, this guy's just cooked. So slightly underrated. Carl Lawson somehow is still even underrated by Jets fans. Some of them, it's because they don't see the sack numbers where they would be. Others because, well, they like him. They think he's going to be good, but I think he is going to be elite. And I think that's why he falls into the underrated portion of this exercise. Then you have Braden Mann. He is overrated. He wasn't that great in his rookie year, but a lot of people absolutely loves what he did. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't get better. That doesn't mean that he's bad. It just means that people are overvaluing what he really did in his rookie year. He wasn't anything close to a Pro Bowl punter. He was probably a below average punter who made some big tackles, and that's pretty much it there. Marcus May, I think, is properly rated. I think everyone realizes that he is a very good player and likely deserves a contract extension because of that. Michael Carter, the corner, slightly underrated. I think because of where he was picked in the position, some people thought, oh, okay, like this isn't going to, be much of a interesting. There's a good chance that he starts at slot. The Jets absolutely love him. And while I didn't necessarily think the value there at the time, I think he's going to end up being slightly underrated by Jets fans this year. Connor McGovern's another one who I'm putting into slightly underrated. And I think people are just down on him because he had such a bad year. I think last year he was probably slightly overrated, and now people are too down on him because he didn't live up to that expectation. But I think he's going to overachieve to those who are slightly underrating him. Denzel Mims, slightly underrated. I think some Jets fans are just, penciling him as, oh, okay, he's going to be okay. And getting on the Elijah Moore bandwagon, which I love him, Elijah Moore. That's not saying that you shouldn't be excited about Moore, but I think people are forgetting about Mims and him taking the next step a little bit too much. So that's why he falls into the underrated one. James Morgan, slightly overrated because, well, you have some who very much so overrate him and say he's fine as a quarterback too. You have others who properly rate him and say, I really don't understand that draft pick. So because of that, he falls in between those two. CJ Mosley, you know what? I'm going to put him as underrated now. I don't think he's necessarily going to come back and be the star that he was for Baltimore, but I think because he's missed the 2 years, people just forgot how good he was for those first 3 quarters in 2019. So I think that he is now actually turned into an underrated player because of, I guess just recency bias because we haven't seen him in so long. Hasbun Nasruddin is underrated. I know he went in the 6th round, but he is someone who can play right away and I think be good. So I am beyond thrilled to finally get to see him play. I can't even tell you. Next up, LaMichael Pirine, overrated. He didn't do much last year. I don't really think, outside of pass pro, there's nothing he does that stands out to me. He is very okay to below average at a lot of things, and I don't think he's explosive enough for this offense. So I don't see him getting a ton of reps. Kyle Phillips is up next, and I think he is slightly underrated. I think he is a good rotational piece that some people are forgetting about. Quinnen Williams, properly rated. Jets fans realize that he is going to be a star in this league, and he's been proving that. So properly rated, and if you ask me, I significantly underrated him in his first year, and that's on me. He took a massive step in year 2, and he'll probably do it again with Robert Saleh leading the way as the coach. Next up is Sheldon Rankins, and I think he is underrated by some. I think this is an under the radar signing in free agency for the Jets. If he's healthy, he is going to be very, very good. Nathan Shepard, I think, is properly rated. People see him as a good rotational player, which is exactly what he is. Jamien Sherwood, I also think, is someone that is properly rated. Taken in the later rounds, but is someone who, with the position change, I think should be, absolutely fine. Next up is Vinny Curry. He is also underrated. He is excellent in a rotational role. He is going to be so good for this team. I'm beyond thrilled to see him get some action. Vincent Smith, I think, is properly rated by Jets fans too. I think they realize that he is probably a sixth wide receiver on most good football teams. Jabari Zuniga is properly rated. I think people realize that there's not a lock there, unfortunately. And I think most realize that. And Zach Wilson, is he overrated by Jets fans? Are they too excited about him? Absolutely not. I think the excitement is absolutely real and for good reason. The hype is real with Zach Wilson, so he goes into properly rated as well. So this tier maker I will link down below. If you would like to do your own, you could screenshot it and tweet it at me and tell me how wrong I was. Let me know in the comments or on social media. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. I'll talk to you next time.